The Packers are coming to Cleveland for week 3. Anthony Moeglin, Spencer German here with you to break it all down. And really, this is a matchup between two teams, in my estimation, that are headed in very, very different directions. The Packers, a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They added Micah Parsons just before the season started, and he's obviously been brilliant already to start the year. The Packers' defensive line has been really good. And the Browns' defensive line has been equally as good, but the problem is their offense just cannot score a lot of points. And that's going to be important in a game against this Packers offense and a Packers team that obviously has Super Bowl aspirations. So we'll talk about how the matchup sort of shakes up, how what this game maybe means for a couple key people, Joe Flacco and his longevity holding that starting quarterback job, but also to a degree Kevin Stefanski and what the sort of future holds for him. But real quick, I want to remind you guys to head on over to roundtable.io/sports/NFL/Browns. You can see it on the ticker at the bottom there. You can find any of our written content here for the network. But also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel here, where you can find more content like this, press conferences, post-game podcast episodes, and then our weekly podcast episode that we also drop here for you on the YouTube channel. We appreciate you guys stopping on by, and we're going to talk some football with you. Megs, I don't know. This is an interesting matchup from a number of different angles. You got the Micah Parsons versus Myles Garrett sort of part of this, but I actually think it's some of the more overarching things that stand out in my mind before we really get into the X's and O's of the matchup specifically. And that would be the topics of like the quarterback situation and even the job security of Kevin Stefanski. Yeah. I don't know. I still don't think they make a quarterback change, after week 3. I think this is something that probably doesn't happen for a few more weeks. Kevin Stefanski's been adamant that they're not thinking about, like, every time he gets asked about seeing Dylan Gabriel, he just says, like, that's not where our minds are at right now. So it seems like he is committed to trying to get this right with Flacco, at least in the short term.
Here's a question as we start this topic and start this whole show. How different do you think it would feel if the Browns were 1-1? Like, is this a
good question?
Is this a prisoner of the moment by all of us? Because, I think you and I were very, very adamant and very consistent leading up to the season. Like, hey, this could be ugly. I know we both predicted that the Browns would beat the Bengals, and we both thought that, hey, we would win a couple games. But understanding the first 6 games are likely.
Predicted the Bengals to win.
I did predict the Bengals to win. I did predict the Bengals to win. But we talked about the Browns being able to be competitive and like, hey, this start of the season is going to be really challenging. Like, you go Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions. And then you get into the NFC North, and it's like legit in the first 6 weeks, you faced potentially 4 Super Bowl contenders before Joe Burrow gets hurt, and it's like, yeah, you probably should lose those games, but it's going to get really loud, and it's starting to get loud. People are starting to really doubt, the Kevin Stefanski thing. I think you and I both align on, hey, we think he's a really good coach, and I think it'd be a mistake if they fired him. But, my buddy texted, said something to me the other day. He said, hey, they're going to expect something in the wreckage, and it's going to get ugly, man. It has the potential to get ugly, and like, I don't know how long you hold on to him. The quarterback situation, I'm starting to think differently about it. You and I both thought Flacco could take you to the bye week, and then you watch what Sunday was, and you're like, I don't know if he can take you through the Packers game. I don't even know if it's going to survive the Packers game, man. And there's a lot that's happening. These storylines are getting a lot more dramatic. The seats feel like they're getting hotter, and it's just like, hey, how different would this be if you just made a freaking kick? You just make a kick.
I think part of that's just the nature of the NFL. Like, it's a week-to-week league. Part of the fun of covering an NFL season and following an NFL season is that we're all sort of very reactionary week to week on things. So yeah, like week 1 goes differently. We're talking ourselves into how this team can maybe sneak into the playoffs, right? The offense is going to get better. Week 2 is a blowout, and now you're 0-2, and all of a sudden it's like, this could get really, really bad. And we're talking about a team that, might only win 3 games similar to last year. So I think that's part of the discourse. It's always going to be that way. What I'll say in regards to like the hot seat part of this, because we do agree in that in the thought that Kevin Stefanski, I think, is a good offensive coach. But I also think in some respects, like the idea that they're just him and Andrew Berry are totally safe no matter what happens this year, I think is not a good way to like run an organization to a degree. Like I understand the thought process and I understand giving them time to fix these, course correct some of the problems, the Deshaun Watson trade most notably. And I can respect the fact that Jimmy Haslam is trying to do I think it's admirable that he's evolved and changed over the course of owning this team, and he's not trying to just make gut reaction decisions anymore. And he's trying to like be patient and have some continuity within his organization. Those things are all important. But I also think like if this thing spirals out of control, if they start 0-6, and then if they only win like 3 or 4 games, which is a possibility. I mean, what we saw on Sunday, that could be how a lot of these games go. It could be like the defense keeps you in it for a while, and then the other team is able to just like pull away late because the defense can't hold on much longer and the offense isn't putting up enough points. And so, well, it's game over. Like that could be how a lot of these games coming up and a lot of the games throughout the season just play out in general. And if that's how it plays out, I don't know that there should just be this blanket understanding that everybody's safe. I think it would at least be worth considering, like, do you need to make a change? Because at some point, Megs, like it's the old Bill Parcells saying of like, you are what your record says you are. And back-to-back seasons, if you only win like 3 or 4 games, not a lot of coaches would survive that. Right. And also, frankly, like the only thing that really like, I would think there's an argument to be made that like the one, like the reason Kevin Stefanski still has a job right now in 2025 is because he somehow got his team to scratch and claw their way to the playoffs in 2023, which he kind of has Joe Flacco to thank for that. But if they don't make that playoff run, do we think Kevin Stefanski is the coach right now? Like probably not. Yeah. So I understand like the being patient thing, but if you get to if they finish the season with like 4 wins or something like that, and it's ugly like it was on Sunday in a lot of these games, I think it's about like how you got to 3 wins or 4 wins or whatever that determines whether or not he's back, whether or not Andrew Berry's back. I think it has to be that way because if he loses the locker room, if guys quit, I mean, Myles Garrett was basically despondent after that game on Sunday. He's called it embarrassing. He already looks like he's fed up. He looks like where he was at the end of last season and we were in week 2. That's not good. So if that transpires and becomes contagious in the locker room and guys are quitting and guys aren't playing hard and you're getting steamrolled week after week, like that's not a recipe for somebody to keep their job. So as much as I respect Kevin Stefanski, as much as I do think he can be more so part of the solution, and I think he's limited in what he has from an offensive talent standpoint, but I also have questions about like their ability to develop certain guys. They're really banking on Cedric Tillman being something. He's kind of been disappointing with some of the lack of plays he's made at times this year already. I think there's a lot of questions there. That's all. And you can't just keep somebody because, well, if we fire him, he'll get hired by somebody else in a second or whatever. Like the circumstances matter. And the circumstances, if this team only has 4 wins and they get blown out, would be the last 2 years have been a disaster. And you can't hide from that. At some point, somebody's got to pay. So it's not that I think everyone's getting fired. I'm not trying to do like the hyperbole, fire everyone and blow it up thing. But I just think, like, let's see how the season goes. Yeah, that's fine. That's kind of what we anticipated. But I don't know that it should just be, this foregone conclusion that everybody's safe. I think you at least got to evaluate how you get to whatever the end result is this season and where things kind of are, and then determine what direction the organization is heading.
No doubt. And you also add in the element of like these rookies. I mean, you can argue through 2 weeks, the Browns have the most impressive like rookie class in the entire league. So it's like this weird juxtaposition of, hey, this looks like you got building blocks for the future. Some of your older guys are like very bad. Like we talk about the offensive line and you talk about, even Joe Flacco hasn't been playing very well. And like, some of their older players are not showing up at all.
Well, we know Flacco's only here for a year regardless.
Like you almost look at the 3, the 3 interior linemen as like cornerstones of the Browns for the last 5 years. and they can't block anything. You're not even like, doesn't even make sense what they're doing. There's a couple of clips out there of, you're getting a little gap scheme, which we have come to love in the Kevin Stefanski offense, and like Joel Bitonio's pooling for nothing, and Patrick Queen is making a tackle in the backfield for 6-yard loss. Like, there's a lot of things that were very weird, and there's no rest for them, right? They don't get the Dolphins and they don't get the Bears in the next 2 weeks. Like, imagine that. Imagine being 0-2 and looking like, all right, we got the Dolphins. You feel like you can win that game. And then you get the Bears and maybe somebody else, maybe an injured 49ers team. No, you get Super Bowl favorite in the Packers, and then you get the Lions, and then you get the Vikings in London. It's like, all right, well, screw it. You got to pull a couple rabbits out of your hat, and it's going to get so much worse before it gets better. And I don't know what getting better even means, right? Like, do they just fire everybody, like fire the coaching staff at 0-5 or 0-6? Like, I don't know, man. That's the really tough part about the schedule and about the start of the season.
I don't think anyone gets fired during the season. I'll say that. I think it would be an end of the season decision, but I just think, there's an understanding, and I agreed with this when the season started. Like, there's a basic understanding that these guys are probably going to get the next 2 years to figure this thing out. And I think that largely is still the plan. But I just think, like, you're going to, at the end of the season, you'll have to evaluate where things are at and how you got to wherever they end up, right? Like, record-wise, and determine if that still should be the plan. Like, if you want these guys drafting the next great quarterback for this team potentially or whatever. I think, and this was a topic I think during the offseason. So far, it's kind of playing out this way. Like, there's a world where last year we were talking about, could Kevin Stefanski survive a bad season and Andrew Berry be the one on the chopping block? And it could completely flip this year and maybe become, I think they're tied to each other. So I think no matter what, if one goes, the other goes. But, like, it could flip entirely where it's like, well, hey, maybe they trust Andrew Berry now because he's going to knock this draft class out of the park, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And they maybe don't trust the head coach as much when it's all said and done. So, again, there's a lot to still figure out. I think ultimately they are tied to each other, whatever happens. But I just think, like, it's premature to sit here and assume that anybody is just flatly safe. Mm-hmm. Based on the results of the season. I think we got to see how you get to maybe 3, 4, 5 wins or whatever, and then make a decision. Because back-to-back losing seasons like that, not a lot of coaches survive that. There's just not a lot to do. And somebody has to own it at some point, I think.
Germ, you and I have talked offline about you potentially thinking they may get to 6 wins, or I think it's 5 wins. 5 wins.
I said 6. I said 6.
Where are you at right now? Where do you feel right now?
I still think there's like a path where this team gets to like 5 wins at least. Yeah. And maybe the Bengals, I was accounting for a Bengals win in week 1. So that was one of my 6. But like, it's like the Dolphins are maybe, as this episode goes up on Thursday, the Dolphins are maybe less than 24 hours away from firing their coach. Like, they're kind of a mess. Like, that's a winnable game. I think the Bears, Ben Johnson's great, but it seems like Caleb Williams has a lot of flaws in his game. Like, that's a winnable game late in the season. I could see them stealing one against a division team at some point. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, I still think there's going to be opportunities to win. I don't think this team's going to go the entire season without scoring below 20 points. I think they'll do it eventually. But right now it's kind of a colossal disaster offensively, and that's what's holding them back. And that's why against this Packers team, I don't think they stand much of a chance.
Yeah, no, it's crazy too. And even thinking back to that Ravens game, you look in the third quarter, that crazy play, like everyone's showing, and we got to get over the Ravens game like it's Thursday, but everyone's showing the scramble that Lamar had, and he rolled left, and then he threw it to DeAndre Hopkins for a 50-yard. Like, that was crazy. First of all, Lamar's just insane. Like, we didn't. I wish we could go back and re-record our post-game show and just talk about how good Lamar is, because just so good at football. It's unbelievable. But the biggest play of the game, it was 10-3 midway through the third quarter, and it was 3rd and 13 on the plus side of the 50. So the Ravens had the ball on the Browns side of the 50, but they had 13 yards to get the first down. And the Browns had him. I think it was Alex Wright maybe, or maybe, no, it was Malik Collins was chasing Lamar down, and he was rolling right, and he hit Zay Flowers for a 16-yard gain to move the sticks, which they then convert to a touchdown. Had that been an incomplete pass, they were punting the ball back to the Browns. It's 10-3. you don't know how this goes. And then in the last quarter and a half, they win it 31 to 14. Like, that's insane. However, like, it's just so many little plays, and you never know when they're going to happen. But they were in that game, and the Ravens very well are going to play in the AFC Championship game, very well could play in the Super Bowl and have the MVP on their team. So you're still in that football game. So that leads me to believe, like, hey, you can compete, but you got to get so much more out of your offense, because what you saw on Sunday from the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the offensive line, like, there was one bright spot on the offense, and it was Quinshon Judkins. And, like, that's it. That's it. Maybe Harold Fannin, but that's it. Everybody else was so bad. Jerry Jeudy, another couple drops, like big drops. And like, come on, guys. Like, you need to pick this thing up. The defense is one of the better groups in the league, and you're really just laying them out to dry and screwing them, man. And it's like, dang, come on, guys. Like, you gotta fight a little bit and execute and produce when you have to. And then that's kind of the challenge for the offense.
Well, that's another reason why I think what we saw on Sunday last week was concerning, because it was a lot like last year, where, you know, the defense keeps you in as long as they can, but the offense can't score. And that's not what I anticipated this was going to look like. I thought getting back to Stefanski's offense, even with some of the limitations they have in certain skill positions, would you know, help the offense produce a little bit more. I thought it would make them more competitive. I thought it'd make them at least average. And right now they're a below average offense, and that shows. Which is why, again, it's going to be tough sledding against some of these opponents. I still think, though, like, I don't know that changing the quarterback when you change here's the thing. When the Browns decide it's time to change the quarterback, the motive of the season changes. Like, what you're trying to accomplish for the rest of the season changes.
Yeah.
That's why I think Kevin Stefanski is so staunchly telling everybody, well, that's not where our mind is right now. He's been asked about Dylan Gabriel basically three or four times since Sunday. And every time he's asked about it, he says the exact same thing. That's not where my mind is at right now, or where our mind is at right now. So that tells me, like, when that line specifically, him saying that tells me that when they decide it's time to play Dylan Gabriel, their mind and their focus shifts to a different idea, which is, okay, now we're trying to evaluate these rookies. Now we're trying to see what we have in these guys. Right now, they're still very much in, can we salvage the season? Can we be competitive? Joe gives us the best chance to win, so let's go do that. And I don't know that that's going to change after this week, probably even after next week, and maybe even the week after that at least. But I still think these first 6 games are sort of the trial run for Flacco, and then you maybe revisit the quarterback conversation. Because by then, 0-5, 0-6, 1-6, if you somehow find a way to be that, I think then you can start to discuss, like, you know, now our season's really teetering here. Let's do something different. But I think for now we're sort of stuck with the quarterback situation that they have.
And I think, too, to that point, like, once you do go to the rookie, once you do go to Dylan Gabriel, it's like almost a signal to the rest of the league, like, hey, come call, like, because, you know, all our veterans are, you know, because the Browns are like all rookies, they're all puppies, and then the rest of the group is old veteran guys who are on the last years of contracts and, you know, have been in Cleveland for years. I'm thinking David Njoku. You're thinking of the whole interior offensive line. You're thinking of Jack Conklin. You're thinking of guys that could have some serious value. And if you are 1-6, 0-5, whatever it is, hey, we're going to rookie quarterback. We're going to all the young guys. Our rookies are great. Let's go figure out, let them learn, let them grow. And it's a restart. And that's kind of that was more so not the concern I had, but how weird it felt, where they are doing in the offseason. They were like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of, hey, we're going to bring everybody back and try to compete. But also, too, we might be in a rebuild. And it's like, it's really hard to do both. And you're seeing this. And that's why some of this stuff's could get pretty ugly. Because if you start losing and you just kind of give up on the year, it's like, all right, do you start shipping those guys out? I don't know. That's going to be for somebody who gets paid way more than me.
I think it's like, I think there's like a within reason part of that. Like, there's some guys they might look to trade. There's some guys they probably wouldn't. You know, we'll see what all those sorts of things look like. But yeah, I still do think you're sort of a ways away from a change for the quarterback position and that attitude or philosophy of what they're trying to accomplish changing for the season. But yeah, listen, like, it's going to be tough sledding this weekend. That continues. This Packers team is really, really good. I actually like that you brought up Quinshon, because I do think one of the keys in this game is going to be finding a way to run the football. We talked about how bad the offense has been. We talked about that group struggling, obviously, as much as it has this year already. I think the thing that maybe changes that, or gives it another element, or shifts it into a different gear, can be if the run game actually gets going and effectively, and if Quinshon Judkins can produce some of the types of plays that they were hoping he will when they drafted him in the second round. Because here's the thing, Megs, like everyone keeps pointing and saying, well, where are the shots downfield? And they keep going back to 2023 and saying, like, what made that run with Joe Flacco so special was like, oh, he was taking these deep shots with Amari Cooper down the sideline and stuff. Well, like right now, they have no threat of a run game. Nobody is afraid of them running the football. And so everyone's just kind of playing like that shell defense, keeping everything in front of them, making the Browns kind of dink and dunk. And as much as I think that is kind of the recipe to winning for this Browns team, because they need longer drives, they need to eat more clock, they want to take possessions away from opposing teams because they don't have an offense that can get into like a shootout. It's also hard to win that way when your offense has to have like 10 plus play drives every single time they have the ball. So like they need to have the ability to open some things up, and those only come when teams are conscious of the fact that you can maybe run the football, that you have some other weapons that they're worried about other than just Jerry Jeudy. And so I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. And I think Quinshon is kind of the X factor for the Browns in this game, because if he can be effective, if he can get this offense in gear a little bit and make the run game something that the Packers have to think about, well, now all of a sudden you have a team that can maybe do some damage and maybe put up more points than they have to this point, and give the Packers a little bit of a game, and maybe even win it potentially. But I think the path to victory in this game. The path to victory in this game starts, I think, with run the football and Quinshon being good.
And
I am not picking
I was going to say, did we just get a flip there? No, but you saw it. You saw the difference in Quinshon, and let's just compare him to Jerome Ford. Like, it was two different dudes, and Quinshon making guys miss, explosive, fast, tough, like all the things. Saw the holes very well, was hitting it hard. Broke tackles, all the things you've been looking for, and you were hoping in the young running back you saw. And I think it was funny. Kevin doesn't really get excited when the media talks to him, but somebody asked him about Quinshon today or yesterday, and he was like, he lit up. He was like, yeah, he's getting better. We're going to get him some more action. Like he said, he had this long answer for it. I was like, oh yeah, here he goes. And I think even more so to what you were saying, like from a drive by drive and a first down, like a set of downs by set of downs, if you're able to run the football and you're in 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 4, as opposed to 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 10, that changes everything. And you talk about the want to take shots. If you're in 2nd and 2 at the 45-yard line, guess what's coming? A deep ball, because on 3rd down you can get it. But if you're in 2nd and 10, you can't go deep because you need to get 6 yards to at least set yourself up for 3rd down. So like that breaks it down at the micro level. If you're able to run the ball, other stuff starts to happen. And I think that they're going to start to really experiment with Quinshon and Dylan Sampson, and really find out what those two can be together for, their trial run this year and then for like the next couple years, because those two can really be a pretty cool combo, and one that the Browns look to capitalize on as soon as Sunday,
Yeah, no, I think they absolutely have to try to capitalize on it. I think it is sort of the key to the offense having success this weekend, if they're going to have success this weekend. And I do think off of that, like if you get into a game where Flacco is throwing the football 45 or whatever times in a game against this Packers team, that's bad news, because this Packers defensive line right now is one of the best in football. They're top 5, top 3 in like most of the major categories in terms of like pressures. They're actually 2nd in total sacks right now. They have 8 already. Micah Parsons has a handful of those himself. He's been brilliant. The addition of him to this defense has created opportunities the same way that the Browns drafting Mason Graham has created opportunities for Myles Garrett and others. Micah Parsons makes it, has helped Rashawn Gary have a lot more success on the opposite end. Like he's been able to do some damage, even more damage, because Micah Parsons just exists. And it's funny, like so many teams game plan for the Browns around, okay, what do we have to do to stop Myles Garrett? This week, the Browns offensively are going to sort of have a similar thought process and game plan where they're going to have to figure out, okay, how do we slow down Micah Parsons so that he doesn't ruin our game plan? And the problem is the Browns' game plan isn't that hard to ruin right now offensively. So when you have a player like that on the opposite side, it presents a world of challenge. And that's why, again, running the football is going to be important because you cannot leave Joe Flacco back there like a sitting duck trying to throw the football downfield with Micah Parsons bearing down on him every 5 seconds.
Yeah, and then you saw it in week 1 against the Lions where Parsons was hunting Jared Goff. It was funny. I saw a clip on Twitter. It was like, this is what National Geographic looks like when the lion's chasing the gazelle and he just like chasing down and just like swallows him up. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what it looked like. And it's going to be worse when it's Flacco because Joe showed on Sunday he cannot move. Like
big DeJuan Jones game. Big DeJuan Jones game. Like
by the way, saying that out loud, how does that make you feel?
I mean, listen, I think DeJuan's been fine. I don't know that he's been great. I don't know that I don't know that he's been awful. There was the weird thing this past weekend where he only played, I think it was 86% of the snaps this past weekend, and people didn't know what was going on there. He has since clarified, and I think Kevin even clarified that it was like a heat thing. Related. Like there was, because it was so hot down in Baltimore that he was trying to sort of keep him fresh. We know Denzel Ward was dealing with cramping, so I think they were trying to sort of avoid the same thing with DeJuan Jones there. But he said like he was fine. He could have kept playing, whatever. But this is another game where I don't know I haven't checked the temperatures for Green Bay I guess it's not in Green Bay, but I haven't checked the temperatures for Cleveland this weekend to know how. I think it's supposed to be pretty hot. I know we're going down to Columbus on Saturday to go to the Columbus Zoo, and it's gonna be like 90 degrees there. So I'm assuming on Sunday it's gonna be equally as hot.
82 on Sunday.
There you go. So it's gonna be hot again. But like you're gonna and for DeJuan Jones, it's like, you're going against Micah Parsons every snap. Like that's exhausting in its own right. Plus it's gonna be hot. Like, so I don't know how they'll handle that again. But this is a game where he has to be great. Like he can't just be okay in this game. He has to be great against Micah Parsons. I'm sure they're gonna give him a lot of help. They'll probably chip Micah. They'll do all the things you have to do. But he has to be. Like, this has to be one of his best games in order for the Browns offense to even have a chance to function.
Well, Jeremy, I'll add, too, that they use Parsons similar to how the Browns use Miles. They're going to move him around.
Yeah, they will.
It's going to be left side, right side, interior.
If Jack Conklin can't play, he'll probably be on Cornelius Lucas.
Cornelius Lucas. Guess what? They watched the tape, too. He's going to line up on Joel Bitonio. He's going to line up on Wyatt Teller. Like, that's going to happen, and he's going to terrorize a lot of these guys. Like, that's one of them where wherever you break the huddle, you find where number one is, and you set everything to number one because – he'll wreck your entire afternoon. You just can't let it happen, especially early on in the game if you're the Browns.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem without question. I do think, though, this does feel like another game that the Browns can keep close for a little while. Like maybe they go to halftime and they're down like 14-7, 14-3, 14-10. I don't know. And then the Packers are able to just kind of pull away late. And so, again, you're going to need that offense to sort of pick things up. I think what worries me from a defensive standpoint when it comes to this Packers team especially is what the Ravens exploited in week 2, which is this secondary outside of Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome is very, very weak. They do not have a lot of depth. And so that nickel spot becomes a problem. Like if Cameron Mitchell or Miles Harden are out there in the nickel spot, I think that's an instant a hot route to whoever's in that spot because they know that there's a place that they can potentially exploit there. I think Jordan Love has done a tremendous job to start this season of really spreading the ball around. Now we know because of an injury situation that Jaden Reed will not be able to play this weekend.
Did you see what he had? Did you see by chance what I just saw it before we started recording? Double surgery on his shoulder and his foot. Yeah. That's tough, man.
Yeah, that's a tough way to start.
Some days I wonder, damn, I could have played in the NFL.
I don't think he's out for the season, but I know
he'll be back. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, still though, they have Matthew Golden, who's a rookie on this team. They have Romeo Dubes. They have Tavian Wicks, my bad, who was a fantasy sleeper for me last year, if I remember correctly. And they also, by the way, have Tucker Kraft, who you have to account for. And that's somebody who could line up in the slot a lot. So I have some questions about with the way Jordan Love is able to spread the ball around and take advantage of different matchups and things. If Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome are out there for the entire game and they're healthy, great. But I think you saw in week 2 how important those two guys are to this secondary. And if they get hurt at any point, they're gone for a stretch of the season, it's going to be rough for that secondary because they have some flaws there. And I think that the Packers are going to be able to take advantage of that. Conversely, I think I trust the Browns to slow down Josh Jacobs. That's been the Packers have not been as prolific as a running team to start this season as they were last year. And I think the Browns, with the way they shut down Derrick Henry, I think if they can make the Packers one-dimensional, it's a way to maybe stay in this game. But I also still worry about the ability of Jordan Love to just, pick apart the secondary outside of Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome.
And I think too, part of what the Ravens exposed was that when you have a freaky athletic quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who's hard to bring down, it's hard to cover for that long. I don't care who you are, what you do. And Jordan Love is not Lamar Jackson. He's he can move. He's certainly not Joe Flacco, but I think that bodes well for the Browns. That gets you more. He's more in the Joe Burrow mold where he'll stand in the pocket and move when he needs to move. But that's good for the Browns, and that I think that will play a factor in what they're going to be able to try to do, just to condense the pocket and use their interior defensive linemen who have proven to be awesome early on in this year to try to make life hell for Jordan Love. But that challenge is going to be hard. Love's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and he's going to get, like you said, they're going to find matchups, they're going to identify matchups, they're going to take advantage of matchups, and that's a scary part for the Browns defense.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think what so far this season is really putting in perspective again, though, is just how good this defense is, and that it's unfortunate that a lot of it is going to go to waste on 2 seasons where the offense is basically inept. Yeah, I mean, it stinks for Browns fans because you have a generational player, Myles Garrett. You have a defense that's worthy. Like I don't know. I saw people tossing around this week the idea of if Baker was still here, what would this offense be like? And that he could run this offense and they'd be.
I was wondering if we were going to get here.
I didn't really want to go here, to be honest with you, but I brought it up because I saw people talking about it. And listen, I think it is a fair question to sit there and be like, with a couple different things changed, or if circumstances have been different, this offense would probably be more worthy of this defense, right? The defense would be playing so well, but the offense would at least be good or competent. And right now, I can't even bank on this offense being competent. If you haven't scored 20 points since week 12 of last season, that's bad. That is not good, especially in the year 2025 when the NFL is catered to the offense. Penalties are called on quarterbacks if you blow on them the wrong way. It's absurd that they can't score 20 points in a game.
Except for Browns quarterbacks when they
that's true.
Unnecessary roughness overturned.
Dean Blandino, is it Blandino who's on that broadcast? I always forget who's on which broadcast, but he explained it in a way that made sense, but I was still we talked about this post game. We don't have to rehash it, but I still felt like if it was Josh Allen, they wouldn't have.
Oh, dude! If it was Josh Allen, they would have had the cops on the field, and then
if it was Patrick Mahomes, the FBI would have been.
The FBI would have been. Matabike would have been leaving in handcuffs, dude. I didn't know if we were going to get to the Baker.
Were you reminiscing about Baker this week, by the way?
No, dude. Okay, here's the thing. I got
a take on this, by the way.
I didn't really understand what revisionist history meant until literally this year. Everyone's saying that, oh my God, we'd be Super Bowl contenders. Needs to just go back and just watch. Not even 22, not even what 22 was his last year. Go back and watch the other ones. 21. Go back and watch the other ones. This was not good quarterback play. If he would have stayed the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, he would be just like one of our old friends. He'd be on a podcast telling everybody how much Cleveland sucks and how it ruined his career because he'd be out of the league. He would be out of the league. And I'm so happy for him. It's great that he changed everything. Guys, Spencer, he was in a 3-point stance for the Panthers on their scout team because that's where his career was at. When he said he had to hit rock bottom, he hit rock bottom. He's rebounded. He's awesome. He is so good for Tampa, and it's awesome for him. He was not good in Cleveland. He was not good. They were going to be middle of the road, and it was trending downwards. And that's where I'm at on it. And I will shut up there because I could go on. We could do a whole.
I have a take that I think is the truth on this. And here's the thing. You're 100% right that Baker had flaws when he was here. Even at his best moments, it was inconsistent quarterback play. There were still things that needed to be corrected. The maturity stuff we is well documented. He was not necessarily not everybody in that locker room, like, was raw with him, was like on the same page with him. Not everybody was like in his camp, if you will. And that sort of divided locker room setting is one of the biggest reasons why he got forced out. I think him and Kevin Stefanski got sort of an icy relationship towards the end too, and that wasn't great. So there was a number of things that sort of added up to this. And I do agree that Baker had to go through sort of an evolution and hit rock bottom and grow up a little bit to get to where he is today. And he definitely was not this quarterback when he was in Cleveland for the first time around. But what I would say to what you're alluding to, which is correct, is that if this regime had drafted Baker, then the things that were considered issues for him, the attitude, the maturity, the mechanical things that he probably needed to work on and fix, they would have been willing to fix those things and take time to let him develop and grow here in Cleveland, rather than send him to football Siberia in the Carolina Panthers and make him have to like figure it out for himself and grow up that way. That I can guarantee you. If he was their pick, those issues wouldn't have been issues that would have deterred them from building around him. They would have tried to make it work and get him to, they would have tried to develop him themselves. They would have tried to help him mature themselves. They wouldn't have used him as an example to do it. But because he wasn't their pick, because he was from the previous regime, it made it easy when those things came up to be like, you know what? Let's move on from him. That's my stance on it, is because like, and that's the thing. Like, that's the thing that I think everyone's mad about, is like, if this quarterback was always in there, why didn't they try to see it through? And that's my point. If he was their draft pick, they would have tried to see it through. And maybe he could have turned out to be this guy if they had given him that time and patience and whatever. But because he wasn't their pick, they were like, we're good. We're going to find our own quarterback. And then they chose completely wrong because they picked the worst option in Deshaun Watson as the guy that was their quarterback that they tied themselves to. And so it makes it even harder to swallow that then. But that is my stance on this, is that, like, if he had been their pick, the things that made them move on from him wouldn't have been issues that they wouldn't have tried to resolve internally themselves.
Yeah, impossible to argue that. Like, yeah, totally. I hear that for sure. But also remember, like, is this year 9 or year 8? Year 8 for him? You know, like
20. He was 2018. So
yeah, this is year 8. This is year 8, season 8 for him. Like, you know, he had his best year last year in season 7. So it's like, how long do you wait? Like, what is that threshold of, like, all right, you're coming out of year 5, you know, we get you your 5th year option. If you're still a middling guy, you know, if you're asking the question still in year 5, like, you probably have your answer. You know what I mean? Like, is this going to be, you know, is he a guy who can lead you to a Super Bowl? I don't think he's a guy who can lead a team to a Super Bowl. Like, I think that he does really well. He's a great regular season quarterback. He gets into the playoffs, last 2 playoffs, all of his playoffs. He gets beat in the first round. Like, there's things there that, you know, in my opinion. 1 year. What's that?
He advanced that 1 year.
Yeah.
He advanced with the Browns too.
Are you? Yeah.
His first, what was it, 2 years ago with the Bucks? He made it out of the first round. 2020, what was that? 2023 playoffs, the year that the Browns would have lost to the
2023.
I'm pulling it up right now. Hold on.
Pull it up. I was just pulling up.
Yeah, they beat Philly 32-9. That was Jason Kelsey's last game. And then they went and then they played Detroit in a close game and they lost 31-23.
Yeah. And then who did they lose to last year? They lost to Detroit, and I believe they lost to rookie. He lost to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels' first playoff appearance. He couldn't. Yeah,
that's right. Because Jaden Daniels.
I gotta stop.
Anyway,
you gonna sleep in your Baker jersey tonight?
I mean, I didn't say I was a Baker guy. I'm not a Baker bro. I just, like I said, my main point was that if they had drafted Baker Mayfield, they would have absolutely tried to, like, be the ones who helped him mature.
Yeah. That's a good point.
They didn't. They were like, we don't want to waste our time making him mature. He can do it on his own. And that's what happened. And they tied themselves to Deshaun Watson, and now here we are. So I also don't blame Browns fans for wondering like what it could have been, because I mean, this is, in some ways, this kind of feels worse than I think what the team was in 2017 and 2016.
Well, it's the start of another rebuild. Like
no, but this is worse because when you were going through it in 2016-17, I think Browns fans understood like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. There was a point to it all. It was like, hey, let's suck and then get, all these great players, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, Baker at the time. Let's get all these guys that we can build around, and then we'll, our future will be bright. Now it's just like you're still the Deshaun contract is still there, anchoring everything down and like weighing on everybody. He's still in the building. 2 more weeks until he can start practicing again, Megs. It's just like this shadow lurking in the background that nobody wants a part of.
Crazy.
And it's like in the season, and they're bad. So like none of this is fun for anybody, and it doesn't feel like there's like the direction was at least there back then, because you knew like we'll come out of this and have a bunch of talented players. Right now the direction's like, well, all those talented players are getting older. What are we going to do? Who's going to be around? Who's not going to be around? Do we trust these guys to even draft the young players that are going to be the future of this team? So there's just so many questions.
Yeah.
And Deshaun's still here. And so I understand why people have the revisionist history.
Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I was driving by the stadium today, just coming home from work, and I was thinking, what is the vibe going to be like on Sunday? Like, what do you think? Like, what is your opinion on what it's going to be? I don't think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
everyone knows it's going to happen.
I don't know that like apathy is fully set in yet, but I do think like based on how people were talking after the Ravens game, I think people are starting to be like, until they play one of these rookies, I don't really care.
And it's like,
I think that's, but I also think fans have weird, fans are calloused. So fans kind of put up different things to, protect themselves. And I think fans came into the season knowing like it might not go well. And if that was going to be the case, then they basically were like, they're going to be ready to check out sooner, or, want to see the rookie sooner than maybe the team is, because they understand.
We know where it's going.
They kind of knew where it was going from the beginning, I think. Yeah. Like the Browns kind of leave that window open of like, hey, anything can happen. We're going to go out and play every week. But for those fans, it's a little easier to check out and then check back in when they care again. Yeah. But I'll tell you, like another year like last year, if the games like go like Sunday, that apathy will be right back in that building without question.
The cheapest Browns ticket I ever bought was $4, and I feel like we're on a path to a cold December game where tickets are $3.99.
It depends on when you start to see Dylan Gabriel play, and it depends on if Shedeur Sanders plays. Because if Shedeur Sanders plays, that $4 ticket's going to skyrocket to like $400 in like a second. So for his NFL debut or whatever. All right, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Got a little off the rails there at the end, but hey, it's all part of the fun conversations we get to have here at Cleveland Browns Roundtable, and I encourage you as always.
Question. Wait, sorry. I meant to ask this earlier. Real quick. What did you think of the Packers all-white uniforms? And reminder, we got the Alpha Dog Browns uniforms coming.
I like the Packers all-white uniforms. I've made my stance on the all-brown very, very clear.
I love the Browns all-brown uniforms. I think they're sweet. The Packers,
I'm surprised you're not. Well, I guess we didn't do picks yet, but you're probably going to pick them to win because they're wearing the all-browns.
Let that be a preview.
Look good, feel good, play good.
That's right, baby. That's right. All right, I'll shut up.
As you enjoyed the conversation, as I was saying, please subscribe to the YouTube channel here. We have more conversations like this. Obviously, press conferences. We'll talk post game and throughout the week as well. So we hope that you'll follow along with us throughout the season. Also, head on over to our new site with the written content, roundtable.io/sports/NFL/Browns, which I've been promised from Anthony Moeglin will be shortened at some point to not be so wordy. But in the meantime, that is the link. You can see it below there on the scroll. But thank you guys for stopping by. Browns and Packers, just a few days out now. We will be there to cover it for you. And as always, we appreciate you following along. Keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with Cleveland Browns Roundtable.